The triune God is a God of infinite hospitality. God welcomes God. The joyful welcome of God, God's joyful welcome of God, is the life of the Trinity. But the Bible begins with that eternal God of welcoming new things into existence. That's what creation is. Creation is God summoning guests to and showing hospitality to creatures that he forms. You can say the let it be of creation is also an extension of welcome. Let there be light is welcome light. It's good to have you. Welcome grass and trees. Welcome animals. Welcome birds. Welcome Adam, Eve. It's so good to have you. The creation is the original house of hospitality, where the infinitely, eternally hospitable God has opened up a room for his creatures to enjoy his hospitality, to lavish his goodness on them. And within that creation, which is itself a house of hospitality, God planted a garden, a sanctuary, that was the specific place where he would welcome man. He offered man the tree of life. He held out to man the promise of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the garden was that place of hospitality. But of course, human history begins, the history of the Bible begins, not just with that act of creation, God extending his welcome to creatures, God extending his welcome to man in the garden, but it also begins with a violation of hospitality. Adam and Eve are in God's house, they're in God's sanctuary, but instead of receiving the food that he offered, they listened to a deceptive guest, an intruder, and they are cast out of the garden. And the world itself becomes less hospitable to them. The world is not going to produce the abundance that it would produce otherwise. Adam's going to produce bread by the sweat of his brow. Thorns and thistles are going to interrupt the production of food. And the creation that's designed to be a house of hospitality becomes inhospitable. But God never gave up on his plan to make creation a house of welcome for all creatures, and specifically for human beings. And we see this throughout the Bible. We see God establishing places that are renewals of the garden, recapitulations of the garden, where he welcomes Israel into his presence. The tabernacle and the temple are initial moves by God to establish his hospitality in the world. And that comes to culmination, of course, with Jesus Christ. Jesus is the Son of God, the Son of the triune God, who is infinite hospitality. And he comes into the world as hospitality incarnate, to welcome human beings back into the presence of God, to welcome human beings back into the abundance of what God the Father offers to them. Jesus is that incarnate hospitality. He is himself the temple, and in him the world is being restored as a house of hospitality for God's creatures.